Welcome back to Are You Smarter Than a Libertarian? I'm your host, Jeff, and there are laws most Americans recognize my name, and then there are laws that quietly accumulate power until one day they're standing in the middle of a national controversy. The Freedom of Access to Clinical Entrance Act is one of those laws. From here on out, it's going to be referred to as the FACE Act. Passed in 1994 and signed by Bill Clinton as he was covering Monica Lewinsky's face, the FACE Act was sold as a response to real violence, bombings, arsons, murders of abortion providers. Congress believed existing laws were insufficient, especially after the Supreme Court shut down attempts to use older civil rights statutes against clinic blockades. So Washington did what Washington does best. It expanded federal authority and promised restraint, FACE criminalized force, threats of force, and physical obstruction when used to interfere with reproductive health services. That includes abortions, counseling, referrals, and the people who provide them. The law does not ban protests, however. It does not ban speech. It draws a line at conduct. And intent is everything here. You have to act because someone is exercising protected rights, not accidentally, not incidentally, intentionally. And what most people don't realize is that faith also applies to religious worship, churches, synagogues, and mosques. That provision exists largely to protect the law from constitutional challenges by making it appear content neutral. In practice, it has been used extremely rarely until 2026. In January 2026, a church service in Minnesota was disrupted by activists protesting ICE following a deadly shooting involving federal agents. The disruption was deliberate, coordinated. Worship was interrupted inside the sanctuary. Among those present was Don Lemon, journalist, media figure, and camera in hand, and all around kind of an insufferable individual. Weeks later, Lemon was arrested, not by local authorities, not on state charges. He was charged federally. Conspiracy against rights and a violation of the FACE Act for interfering with religious worship. This should immediately raise some eyebrows. Prosecutors, particularly DHS, claimed Lemon wasn't simply documenting events. They alleged coordination with activists, participation in disruptions, and intent to intimidate worships. Now, the video I've seen, you can kind of argue that point, but we're not talking about it. We're talking about from a libertarian point of view. They cite video evidence in more than 24 overt acts to support a conspiracy charge. Don Lemon says he was doing what journalists do, observing, recording, and reporting. Yeah, it's not kind of how it works when you look at the video. And this is where the line becomes dangerous. Mere presence at a protest is not a crime. Journalism is protected under the First Amendment. But journalism is not a free pass if someone crosses from observer to participant. The government must prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, here's where it gets interesting. 2 magistrate judges initially found no probable cause for Don Lemon's arrest. And that's not common. The Department of Justice appealed anyway, and a grand jury indicted, as I think it should be. It should go before a grand jury to see if there's evidence. If you care about how power actually works, not how it's marketed on cable news, this is exactly the kind of case you need to understand. That's why episodes like this exist, and why you should subscribe here on YouTube and follow on Rumble. We slow the noise down and explain the mechanics. This case also revives a long-running accusation surrounding the FACE Act: selective enforcement. For decades, conservatives have argued the law has been used almost exclusively against anti-abortion activists. Now, one of the rare uses of its religious provision is aimed at left-leaning protesters, with a journalist swept into the case. Selective enforcement claims are hard to win in court. Defendants must prove similarly situated individuals were not prosecuted and that the decision was motivated by political or ideological biases. Courts rarely accept these arguments. But legitimacy isn't decided only in the courtroom. If churches become protest venues, religious liberty suffers. If journalists fear federal conspiracy charges for covering protests, press freedoms suffer. And when a law is written to stop bombings becomes a tool for navigating political conflict, everyone should be paying attention. Whether you're a loony leftist or a radical rightist, it doesn't matter, just pay attention. If this breakdown helped to clarify what's really at stake, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube and follow on Rumble and leave me a like, comment. It all helps the algorithm. These cases don't stay isolated, they set precedent. And that's what we need to understand in this country. Precedent matters. And the FACE Act just stepped into one, whether Congress intended it to or not, and that's how most laws are, the unintended knock on consequences. Now, that's it for today's episode. As always, stay free, stay informed, stay accountable. I'll see you in the next episode.